What the hell? This isn't an illusion or hologram. What is this place?
Do you desire power?
That voice. Who are you?
If I give you power, can you go on? Let's make a deal. In exchange for my power, you must promise to make my one wish come true. Accept this contract and you'll accept its conditions. With me at your side, you'll live a life unlike any other. Different providence, a different world, a different life. The power of the means will condemn you to a life of solitude. Are you prepared for this?
A convergence with the rift tube. So the myth is beginning once again.
Very well. I accept the terms of your contract.
Greetings, animates.
Let me ask you a question. What does it mean to be the best show ever? Is it because of the story, the characters, the animation, or perhaps the music? No matter who you ask, you'll always get a different response. And today's show, ladies and gentlemen, is one of these shows. In a poll from both Japan and the West, hitting the top 10 spot each time, released in the year 2006, the year of some of anime's most influential and memorable shows. Code Geass. My favorite anime of all time. Code Geass is a massive franchise that has a lot of expanded universe content, spanning from manga, games, sound episodes, picture dramas, spin-off OVAs, alternate universe recap films, and sequel. Honestly, it's a lot to get into, and sadly, you'll have a hard time tracking them down, since a fair share was never officially translated into English, and the stuff that was is extremely rare or expensive. On the date August 10, in the year 2010 of the Imperial calendar, the Holy Britannian Empire declares war on Japan. This is due to Japan having the largest supply of Sakuradite, the resource that powers Britannia's military units, the humanoid autonomous armored knight, the Nightmare Frame. Following Japan's defeat, they were rebranded as Area 11, where our story takes place. We follow the life of Lelouch Lamperouge, an exiled prince of Britannia, who has vowed to avenge his mother's murder and to create a world where his little sister Nonali can find happiness. Oh, and usually accompanied by If I could describe Code Geass's plot in one word, it would either be provocative or compelling. Never before have I been so captivated by a show. You get to see the show from all kinds of perspectives that further expand the world and lore. It makes you question whether or not Lelouch's actions are right or wrong. He goes to extremes to get the results he desires, and in doing so, can result in hurting the people he cares about. whether he's aware of it or not. This is backed up by Goro Taniguchi and Ichiro Okochi being the perfect duo to make a show like this, where Goro is really good with how he paces the story to make it engaging and interesting, while Okochi excels in the emotion of the scenes. Although despite that, it isn't perfect, 100% of the time. What I love most about the plot of Code Geass is that it can be a political show without being political. What I mean by that is that while the themes of discrimination and terrorism are apparent, it doesn't come across as preachy or politically driven. If Code Geass came out today, you'd have a bunch of talentless hacks in the West try to change the meaning of dialogue to push an agenda with current political memes. Code Geass has a huge cast of characters that all feel unique and well thought out. They each get their own fair share of screen time that gives us a good idea of who they are and what they're all about. It's very impressive for a show to juggle all these characters with storylines that all spread out to different places, all the while connecting together. Though some characters could definitely benefit from having more screen time. I can think of no better protagonist for a show like this than Lelouch. He's extremely intelligent, cunning, and sometimes downright evil, and I fucking love him for it. He's a man who knows what he wants and how to get it. But he has his life on a hold and goes through the motions of living, until he's finally given the tool necessary to do what he set out to do many years prior. You can sympathize with him for wanting to create a world for his disabled sister Nunnally, even when his methods are unorthodox. Lelouch is very goal-driven and doesn't care for the feelings of others that aren't directly close to him, and must harden his heart when he hurts the people he cares about the most, leading him to the realization that he must see his dream to the end, no matter the cost. Which helps that his best friend Suzaku runs counter to Lelouch's drive to get results by dismantling the establishment, and his own drive to change the system from within, by rising up in the ranks and to be the one to change the world himself. Both methods can be argued, making it very entertaining and thought-provoking when they discuss it on occasion. I could talk on and on about each character, but I'd literally be here all day, so while on the topic of characters, I'd like to mention the character designer for Code Geass, Takahiro Kimura. Kimura would have to be my favorite character designer in the industry. The way he draws the eyes especially are signature for him, and I never get enough of it. It has really evolved over the years and paid off in Code Geass, even in current year with the release of R3. His art is refreshing to look at when compared to a lot of other shows in the same genre. The colours you'll notice are very different between each season. The first season has this washed out look, giving it this bleak feeling, which reflects the tone of the show perfectly, while the second season is a lot more vibrant and makes all the colours pop out. And if I were to pick, I'd say I prefer the look of the second season over the first, mostly because Kimura's designs look more refined than Clamp's. For which some people would say, didn't Clamp do all the Code Geass characters? This isn't the case, as Clamp only did the concepts for the characters. The finished product are all Kimura's, which is why as the first season goes on, you'll notice the characters looking more and more refined from when the show started. The animation to this day still holds up, and looks better than most shows that come out today. All the characters are very expressive and lively, making it a joy to watch. Their use of body language is something to be admired, where all the characters move and act in their own unique way, and better yet, all the nightmares are animated in 2D. I miss the days where Sunrise would animate their mechs in 2D instead of 3D. There is some notable CG sprinkled throughout the show, but they aren't so distracting that it'll take you out of the experience. The second season also had to leave out any nudity unlike the first season, all because it got moved to an earlier time slot, most likely to appeal to more general audiences. Fun fact, did you know that the first fight scene between the Gurren and the Lancelot was animated by a single person? The soundtrack can best be described as iconic in its uniqueness. You'll be hard-pressed to find a soundtrack that sounds similar to Code Geass. It has a massive library that fits perfectly into any scene it plays in, for the comedic scenes that play Stray Cat, to the grand moments accompanied by All Hail Britannia. One of my personal favourite songs from Code Geass would have to be Opening 3. Out of the now 21 times I've watched Code Geass, I have yet to skip this song once. and I plan to keep it that way. I will say though that Ali Project is a taste that takes some getting used to, and won't be everyone's cup of tea. When recommending Code Geass, I always add to it by saying, you should watch it in English. I mostly do this not so much because I watched it first in English, and therefore have a bias towards it, but because Code Geass is the gold standard for dubs, thanks to the late Kevin Seymour, who did everything he could to make Code Geass sound the best it could when translated into English. And even with the outdated line changes, they didn't age very well when watching it far past its release date.
It's okay. I didn't know about it either.
Don't give me your emo routine!
Emo?
I guess compassion is not in fashion these days.
大丈夫。僕も知らなかったから。
こんな時に天然で返すな！
天然？
そういうところが天然だって言うんだよ。
Despite that, the actors carried it through and gave the best performances of their careers, and unless they were lying to us, were also one of their favourite characters to play. I say to you guys watching, to try Code Geass in English, just to see that good dubs can be done, even when there are some hiccups in them. But stay the hell away from any other dub that isn't the original 2 seasons. Kevin Seymour laid the foundation on what made Code Geass's dub good, only for Funimation, like usual, to miss the mark by a wide margin.
Those reports were falsified as well. They're spreading fake news hoping to cause mass hysteria.
It's unfortunate that the biggest problem with Code Geass is everything else that isn't the original 2 seasons. All the spin-offs that came out after the show needlessly add points to a story that doesn't need them, that retcons the story in really contrived ways that make little to no sense, or completely destroys the mythos of what Geass actually is. The greatest offender being the 2012 OVA, Akito the Exiled. Akito is so much of a mess that it would need its own video to cover, so the only thing I'll say is that you should forget it exists and shouldn't be counted as a part of the Code Geass universe. Kazuki Akane does not understand what makes Code Geass Code Geass. He made the Nightmares run. Why the fuck would you make the Nightmares run? As much as companies like Madman insist on ignoring warnings, I'll inform you all, for those who are unaware, you should not watch this film without first watching the recap films first. You cannot just watch the original 2 seasons and then jump straight to R3. It sadly doesn't work that way. I don't understand why it keeps getting advertised as the sequel to the original show. Actually, I do. It's because it sells a lot better than saying, oh, by the way, you gotta watch these really crappy recaps to understand what's going on. Movie 2, however, is one of the most dogshit recaps I have ever seen. Much like Akito, Movie 2 has multiple flaws in its narrative that would be better explained in a separate video. But basically, Movie 2 recaps the events of the end of Season 1 and most of Season 2, while also adding little extra scenes that weren't in the original. And even though visually they look nice, I feel they don't add anything substantial to the story, some of which I would cut out entirely. The changes to the story bastardize Lelouch's character to the point where he becomes a shadow of his former self, as Movie 2 takes most of the attention away from him in favour of Suzaku's point of view. The problem being, if you'd never seen the original show before, you'd be missing out on all the details that the original show already covered. One saving grace is that, unlike Akito, that tried and failed to fill in a blank in the story, the recap films are their own canon, and are mostly there for the people who have already watched the show. The annoying part is that going forward with Sunrise's 10-year plan for Code Geass, these recap films are the starting point for any future projects. So unless you're a mega fan of Code Geass like myself, I'd stick to the original 2 seasons and leave it at that. Code Geass embodies everything I love in the medium of anime. It's got giant robots, gratuitous fan service and nudity, over-the-top action scenes, gratuitous fan service and nudity, easily recognizable characters, and thought-provoking themes and messages, and whose final episode is near literal perfection. It's what to me separates it from the crowd of an endless list of anime, especially Gundam. But unlike Gundam, Code Geass puts a completely new spin on their mechs and how they operate. In fact, One show in particular that Goro Taniguchi worked on, Geass, had some early concepts to what the inside of the nightmare would look like. And also Gundam Wing has some similarities, but that'll be explained at a later date. Bringing this review to a close, Code Geass is the very definition of an anime classic, featuring an amazing plot with twists and turns at every corner, a wide variety of interesting and well thought out cast of characters, memorable soundtrack, and animation that holds up no matter how many years go by. For those who like to buy physical DVD or Blu-rays, you're in for a hard time, as currently only the first season on DVD is available for purchase for some reason. The Blu-rays, on the other hand, were limited edition only, so you might have to go looking on places like eBay just to get a copy. If you're looking to stream it instead, don't bother checking out Anime Lab if you live in Australia, because it's dead.
Being a pirate is a right to be. Do what you want 'cause a pirate is free.
There are plenty of other places you can stream it, so you'll have no trouble watching it, no matter what method you may use. Code Geass is timeless, and is an experience I wish I could relive for the first time, again and again. And even when I'm old and grey, Code Geass will always remain my favourite anime of all time. Thank you so much for watching. All hail Lelouch, and I'll see you all when I see ya. The world continues moving forward, thanks to anime that animators have produced. But what about a show that was hated so much that it sometimes is widely considered one of the worst anime of all time? Can I bring to light any other point of view that hasn't been said already? Well then.
Alright everyone, pack it up, we're done today, don't do any more. Hip hip hooray! That's all folks.